So off camera, I went ahead and I moved the loadout container and also the actual weapon loadout container a little bit to the left side, just so we can show the weapon and all the other components much more visible on the right side here. And the second thing that we want to do is our default setup. So right now, if I open up the pause menu, you can see the camera is underneath the table because we set up our location to 00. So that's why the camera is looking like that. So we want to actually set up a default setup. So when the game starts, the camera will be at the default location. So I'm going to go ahead and move this camera and rotate it and quickly set it up so it's looking at the table. So there you go. So that's the location and the rotation of the actual camera that I've set up as. And if I go in game and if I press the loadout, it actually shows up right there. And then the weapon is on top of it as well. And this looks really good. One more thing I'm going to do is to improve on the quality of the scene. I'm going to select our camera and then go to flags, let your flags, and then you have all of these flags. I'm going to get rid of atmosphere, BSP, cloud, decals, fog, and also I'm going to get rid of the skylighting and volumetric fog. Now I'm going to go ahead and then compile and save. Next thing I'm going to do is the spotlight that we have in the game. I'm going to select the spotlight and then the outer cone radius, I'm going to reduce it. So it focuses only on the table. Let's rotate the camera a little bit. Okay. And the attention radius, we're going to drop it as well. And only hit the table, not the back. Yeah, we only want the light to hit the table and nothing else. So I'm going to drop this radius a little bit more. And I've also selected the temperature and then set it to 9,000 just so that it's nice and white. One last thing that we want to do is to put this all inside of a black box so that the world lighting does not affect this. To do that, you can do it in both ways. You can either put it in, you can do it in the actual mesh itself, or you can do it in the world. I'm going to do it in the mesh really quickly. To do that, it's very simple. I'm going to select our scene component and then add in a cube. And this cube, I'm going to just make it bigger than the scene, taller, and also wider, and make it a lot more skinnier, right? And then move it to the left and do the same thing. Put this on the left and right. But before that, I'm going to go ahead and apply a black material onto it. And then do the same thing, copy it, and then paste the cube. And now I can move it to the other side. That adds the cube just like that. And then now I can go ahead and copy and paste both of these and then rotate it. And move each and every single cube to its final location. The last two, it's going to be on the top and also on the bottom. Close it off completely so it doesn't have any type of gaps or such, just like this. And then now you can copy and paste this and then bring it all the way to the bottom of the scene. Now if I go inside of the scene, you'll notice that there's no more light effects to the entire scene. This is a very much viable option because this material is black. It takes a lot less for the game to render it, so it makes it that much better. And this cone radius, let's actually increase it a little bit more so it fits the entire table and then reposition it until we find a spot where we like it. So I'm going to select this entire thing and I'm going to move it out of the world just to keep it out of the way. And then if I press T and if I press loadout, you notice that it looks so much better than what we previously saw. And the weapon system, everything is still functional. We just added that black cube to reduce all of the different type of lighting in it. We can go back to here and then add in another light. We're going to select our light box here, and then we're going to add in a rect light, and then move this rect light so that it adds a little bit of a shadow. Move this rect light around so it adds a little bit of shade to the entire setup. And again, I'm going to make the temperature to 9,000 just to make it nice and white instead of that yellow tone to it. And I'm going to rotate it until I find a position where I like it best. And I think this will look good. So I'm going to go ahead and press play, T, load out. That's how it looks. So that's it for the cosmetics. Let's go into the functionality now. Go to the LoadOut system folder, go to UI, and then LoadOut button. Now, what we have already completed in the past is that when the player clicked on the button, we sent out a UI interface notification for UI clicked. So we want to now implement this function to do something when the button or custom loadout gets clicked. So first thing that we're going to do is go to our pause menu, and we're going to go and select our actual loadout container. Go to Windows here and open up animations. What we're going to do with the animation is when the button gets clicked, like let's say the loadout button 1 or 2, we want to move our actual loadout container and our loadout to the left. So we only see the actual loadout itself. So to do that, first we're going to click on the actual loadout container, click add on this animation. And this would be our move left is the name of the animation. I'm going to click on it and then click on add here. And I'm going to add the loadout container 66. On this loadout container, there's a plus icon that you can see right here. Click on the plus, and then we're going to select transform. We can expand the transform, and then there's a translation that we can expand. Now, x-axis is what we're going to use. X is our left and right. Y is top to bottom. So on the x-axis, I want to, at 0 second, I want this to be at 0. And we're going to select this add new key. And then now move it to 0.5. And I'm going to make this go like minus 450. What this will do is it will move the actual container to the left, and then also it adds this keyframes right here. And now if I play the animation backwards here by reducing the time, you'll notice how the entire canvas box moves inside and outside the actual frame. Now I can add in another animation for our custom box here. Now click on add animation, and this would be move left underscore loadout. Now this, I'm going to click on the actual loadout container and then click on add. And then I can select the loadout container. Same thing. Click on the plus, transform, expand the transform, expand the translation. At 0 second, it's going to be at 0. And I'm going to add in a new key. And then about half that second, we want to move this minus 380. That's what we want to do. So now you'll notice that this box is going to move minus 380 when we play this animation. So what we're going to do here, we're going to now go ahead into our graph. And then if you notice, now we have a new animation drop down here. And if you open it up, you have your move left and your move left loadout pane here. Let's go to our designer and quickly rename this move left custom loadout buttons. And this one move left to loadout itself. We're going to open up our interface and we're going to implement this UI on click. So right click and implement event. And we want to now grab our move left loadout and then also our move left custom loadout buttons, both of them. I'm going to drag off of this move left loadout and then say play animation forward. And I want this to play secondarily, so I want to play this one first. So I'm going to again copy this play animation forward and then plug this in here, and then the loadout target custom loadout buttons is going to be playing first. Playback speed is 1. This one will play as well when I click on it. Now we want to create a back button so that we are able to come back to this. I'm going to go ahead and search for an image and then drop the image onto the canvas panel. It will be on the top here. And for this image, for the purpose of this, I've actually created a back button that I'll be using on this image. So I'm going to select the image and drag in the back button onto it. And then I'm going to size it. Just like that. And then set the anchors to the top over here. And then fix the anchors to the corners of these. This back button, I'm going to select the image. And then I'm going to go ahead and right click. And then wrap it with a button. I'll wrap it with the button. And then the image, I'm going to select the image and then make it fill. And the background color of this button, I'm going to just make it 0. I don't need to see the button. So when the game starts, I want this button to be hidden. So I'm going to set this to hidden. And when we click on the actual UI, this is when I want the button to actually show up. So in the actual hierarchy here, I'm going to go ahead and set this as a back button and then make it into is variable. And I'm going to take this back button and say set visibility to visible, and then play the animation of this. And also, when the back button is pressed, I'm going to select the back button, and then on clicked, I'm going to take this move left loadout and also the custom loadout button box. And here I'm going to play animation reverse. Same thing here as well, copy and paste it, and then play animation in reverse. This time we want the loadout to play first and then the animation to play after. And we're going to take this button and then we're going to set this to hidden again. The other one didn't come out. Why is that? Oh, because I forgot to connect this. Okay. Let's try that again. I press T, loadout, and then I select the loadout. The button shows up and then the actual loadout box goes to the outside of the map. And then now if I press the back button, the custom loadouts come in and then now I can select number 2, same thing, number 3, and so on and so forth. Now what I also want to do is a quick little tweak here. I want to select my loadout button and then the translation, what I'm doing here, I'm going to actually make it minus 360, like a 20 points out. So it's not touching the wall completely, it's just a little bit to the out. And one more thing that I noticed is this, the background screen is actually not all the way covering the screen. You see that little gap? So I'm going to fix that by stretching this out here as well. And then on this side, looks pretty good, so we're fine there. One of the last things that we're going to take a look at before we close off this tutorial is the location offset and the rotation offset. This is an optional item, and let me show you what that means. If I were to remove this weapon main from our calculate weapon position, and if I add in our secondary weapon per se as our target mesh, and here in event begin play, if I go ahead and do a delay of let's say 2 seconds, once that is done, let's update the camera position and we have set up our secondary weapon. So if I go press play, T loadout, you see how the camera has rotated to look at the pistol, but the camera is way far away from everything. So we want to be able to move the camera forward and also zoom in on this pistol based on the pistol's location. So this is where the location and the rotation offset comes in. And if I were to show you the melee weapon really quickly, let's increase this delay by 4 seconds. Show you the melee weapon. Play, T loadout. You see how the camera moves up? Here, we want to be able to rotate the camera and also zoom in. So we're looking at the melee weapon only, not the entire table. So this is where the offsets come into play. Let's go back to our calculate camera position function. In here, I'm going to add in 2 variables. The first one's going to be the location offset. This is going to be of type vector. The second one is going to be our rotation offset. This is going to be of type rotation. So the location offset is pretty straightforward. Where we are actually sending out the camera location, we're just going to drag off of this and then click on plus. And then we're going to add our location offset to it. And now we're going to send that out as the camera position. So whatever location offset is being set up, it's going to add to our camera after the camera has positioned itself facing the actual object, and then you get to play with this location offset to tweak it as you would like. For the rotation offset, we can't really do an add. There's no real add for rotation. We have to actually do a combine, and you can use something called a combine rotators, and then you would drag your rotation offset here, and then this would be sent out as your camera position. And again, you would play with your rotation offset to set your camera position properly to focus on the specific item. And now in our event graph, the target FOV right now it's set to 65. Let's go ahead and make this as 35 because we're going to be focusing on the melee. So if I press play and if I go into the loadout, you'll notice that the camera actually rotates to focus on the actual melee weapon. Now, you can use the location offset and the rotation offset to make the adjustments here. So you would go into your location offset. If you don't already have this expanded, just click on this to expand. I'll set up something on the z-axis because we want the camera to go up and down. So I would select -60 on the z-axis, and then I would now press play, and then take a look at to see how that will look like. So as you can see, I zoomed in into the knife very well, but I also want the camera to move up. So on the y-axis, I'm going to add -20. So now you can see the camera is focused right on top of the knife, and it looks very well. This is how you would play with the offsets to move the camera left and right. Now, we're not going to be manually setting this up every single time because this is specifically for the melee weapon, and we have specific ones for the secondary weapon and the main weapon. We're going to be working with our structures of the weapon to actually set up this offset. Now, we'll take care of that in another video. I think this is a great spot for us to actually stop this video today and pick it up on the next one. Once again, thank you everyone for coming this far in this tutorial series. If you really like this type of content, please feel free to hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel because we're coming close to the end of this series and I have a very exciting series coming up after this. So subscribing to the channel will make sure that you get notified when the next series gets released. Looking forward to seeing you on the next one. Until then, have yourself a great day.